When I was a nun, when I began my life as in the novitiate, which was a time of just beginning to learn to live the vowed life, I had a conversation with one of the sisters in community about the meaning of what it means to live religious life. Sister Lucy was 93 years old, and she had just celebrated her 60th anniversary of final profession. So I asked her what it means to live religious life and the meaning of the vows to her. I was expecting something very long and deep and profound because she had just celebrated 60 years of living this life. But she said to me that to her, living the life has been a life of receiving all as gift that comes to her and then letting it go. Receiving and letting go. She said she is still learning to live this life and this rhythm of receptivity and freedom in letting go with God. She's still learning to let go in all aspects of her life and to receive all this gift. And she finally said to me not to worry, there is no expiration date on living this life with God, no matter how we live it. Because God gives us a lifetime to learn with open hands and open heart. Today's gospel is also a message of receiving and letting go. Jesus was on a journey, and there was a man that came running up to him, knelt down, and said, "Good teacher, what must I do to share in everlasting life?" Well, first Jesus responded in saying, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but God. You know the commandments." And then Jesus went to list them. The man replied, "Teacher, I have kept all these commandments since childhood." And then Jesus looked at him with love and told him, "There is one thing more you must do. Go and sell what you have and give to the poor, and then come follow me." At those words, the man's face fell because he had many possessions, and he went away sad. The gospel reminds us that wealth can be an obstacle to discipleship. It can be. It doesn't have to be. In this story, Jesus is talking to a man because he asked a bold and courageous question. What must I do to share in everlasting life? Now, this guy kept the law. He knew all the commandments. He was living in a right relationship all his life. And yet he hungered for something more. And Jesus gazes upon him and invites him on the journey of discipleship. He tells him, just do one more thing. Go and sell what you have and give it to the poor. In the Jewish tradition at the time of Jesus, wealth was often understood as a sign of divine favor, and there was an obligation with that favor to give alms to the poor. Jesus reverses that idea and invites the man to let go of his privilege of divine favor, his privilege of almsgiving, and share in a life with Jesus who has total dependence upon God. We don't know what the story was with that man who went away sad because he had many possessions. But there was something within him that was an obstacle that he could not let go and follow Jesus. What is the one thing more we must do in following Christ? Like that man with many possessions, we may be in right relationship, do all the right things, whether we're rich or poor, and yet there may be obstacles that keep us from following Christ. And in that look of love from God, we are invited to let go, that mystery of letting go. And when we do, we receive so much more than we ever imagine. The gospel hints at that. At the end of the gospel, Jesus said how hard it is to enter the reign of God. And the disciples were marveling, and the crowds were overwhelmed and said, "Then who can be saved?" And Jesus fixed his gaze on them and said, "With humans it is impossible, but not for God. With God, all things are possible." That mystery of receiving and letting go, that one more thing of constant movement to and receiving and letting go with God, happens because with God, all things are possible. So this week, let us reflect on what is that one more thing we need to do? What are those obstacles that get in the way of our love for one another and for God? It could be possessions, but what about relationships or attitudes or mindset of being? Our lives is a call to love in that sense of receiving and letting go, in that mystery of receptivity and surrender. How will we live with life and love this week? With a belief and trust in God, because with God, all things are possible. Amen.